Hello everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We have a different guest on each week. We head over to the Rhyolite Zone for a short story and or some poetry. And we catch up with Twangling Jack Ford over in the Oak Shed for a weekly album review. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from poets, performers, musicians, people with MP3s, local arts news, etc. People who might be a good guest. Don't hesitate to get in touch. We are going to go over to the announcement section now, so let's check out an announcement from somebody who has done just that by reaching out to me. 60 years, one incredible challenge. Bob Yates runs the length of Britain for charity. Local handicross runner Bob Yates is celebrating his 60th year in a way most wouldn't dare by running the entire length of Britain. Starting on May 31st, Bob will take on the legendary Land's End to John O'Groats challenge, covering 1,000 miles over 5 grueling weeks. But Bob isn't just running for the thrill, he's doing it to support Humanity Direct, a charity that provides life-changing medical care for underprivileged children worldwide. Every step he takes brings hope to children who desperately need it. Follow Bob's journey and support his incredible mission at humanitydirect.org/Bob. Let's cheer him on as he pushes his limits for an amazing cause. Alright, that was this week's announcement, and now we're going to head over to the Rhyolite Zone. And for today's entry into the Rhyolite Zone, we have the very first instalment of a novel, a work-in-progress novel of mine. First draft is all done, edits to be completed. Anyway, it is called Monsters of Rock. Monsters of Rock by Dane Cobain. Chapter 1, The Band Gets Together, 1992. Goran Gonadson felt out of place. He was queuing at the bar in a basement rock club and trying to avoid being stepped on by long-haired men with Doc Martens and short-haired women with platform shoes. He couldn't see their faces. When he looked up at them, all he got was a glimpse of nostril and the distant whites of their eyes. He tried not to look up too much. It was never much fun with a head at crotch height. It was Friday, March the 20th. 2 days earlier, white South Africans had voted to end apartheid. In February, the Cold War had officially ended and the European Union had been established. Stay by Shakespeare's Sister was number 1 on the singles chart. Groen had read an interview with Siobhan Fay, the former Bananarama member who'd formed the group, where she said that she'd picked the band's name after seeing it as an accidental misspelling on a woodcut sign. Groen had no time for accidental misspellings. Take the one right there in front of him. All lagers, £1 all night. He shuddered, then ordered a lager anyway when one of the barmaids finally spotted him. He had to climb onto one of the stools to make himself heard. Got any ID, Poppet? Poppet? Groen's cheeks flushed, but it was barely noticeable beneath the beard. The beard was almost as tall as he was, which wasn't saying much. It was a fiery red, the same colour as the hair on his head, but there was also the telltale salt and pepper that marked him out as a dwarf of a certain age. Counting the grey hairs in a dwarf's beard is like counting the rings inside a tree trunk, except that trees don't usually fight back. I'm 131 years old. Aye? The barmaid leaned down to take a closer look, and Groen turned his head automatically to stop his eyes from getting lost in her cleavage. Most dwarves would take a good look, but Groen's mother had been a stickler for good manners and a dab hand at applying a beating with a rolling pin. Up close and personal, it wasn't easy to confuse Groen Gonadson with a 17-year-old, but only because his beard, his hair and his eyebrows had all converged into one middle-aged mass. He looked like a Celtic warrior who'd shrunk in the wash. Groen sighed and reached into his pocket. Fine, he said. Here's my ID. Shouldn't you know my face by now? Oh, I know your face, the woman said, taking his driver's license and holding it up to the light. She squinted at it, checking the dates in the photo. But it's better to be safe than sorry. Are you playing tonight? Groen grinned and held out a £5 note. If they'll let me, he said. The open mic was run by a young man called Filthy Phil, who was wearing a Guns N' Roses vest to show off his mediocre biceps. He played drums in a Metallica cover band called Sandman, but did his best to muddle through the open mics on a sunburst Yamaha APX-20. When he saw Groen, he grinned at him and flashed devil horns. On the stage, a nervous-looking young woman was trying, and failing, to pull off a cover of Teenage Riot. Groen walked over to Filthy Phil and said, "Put my name down." "Already got it," Phil replied, shuffling in his seat and tossing his hair over his shoulder. He was wearing black nail varnish, and it made his fingertips disappear into his hair when he reached up to straighten it. I'll give you a nod when you're on. Alright, that was the very first part of Monsters of Rock by myself, Dane Cobain, for this week's entry into the Rhyolite Zone. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound, and this is the Sepia Tone Folk Collective with I'm Not Really Here.
Life can seem a vicious game, and you know love is just the same. Lay down your cards, give it a try. Can you soothe the girl with me? Well, she ain't my property, just don't come and ask me why. I'm tired of all their prying eyes, and I'm bored of all the lies and the gossip that I hear. I'll sage love songs just for you, lyrics you can misconstrue until what you want to hear. I gave you what I had inside, then watched you take me for a ride, though I tried to be sincere. I'm tired of your lying eyes, and I'm bored of all the sighs and the tears when you're near. But if you're ever feeling down, you know I'll always be around. I can't seem to stay away, so go. You must let go of my hand. You're not my woman, I'm not your man. There's a kindness being cruel. You'll go and try and play this cool. Ignore your heart, play by the rules, then it's me that feels the fool. I'm sick and tired of my disguise, so I'll just say my goodbyes and then slowly disappear. 'Cause I'm not really here, 'cause I'm not really here, I'm not really here.
The wind in the valley where she's whispering through the leaves. She gently breathes, stirs the passion so deep within me. An ocean wild with crashing waves. She rides the waves, horses across the songs of the mermaid skies. And is the storm, and Ephraim is the wind, driving never for changing skies. Through the night, she gently schemes, reclining in cloudless clime. Sister, I'll sketch her, she plays all my desires and reaches deep into me. starlit sky, mother to children of the Holy Land, priestess, warrior of the secret hearts, mistress to Cuchulain's light. She rode the storms from the winged isle, through the valley of whispering. Ephraim is a storm, and Ephraim is the wind.
That was Aoife by Andy Hoger, and before that we had the Sepia Tone Folk Collective with I'm Not Really Here. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for me to be joined now by Andy Hoger, who's been a previous guest on the show, and he's going to let us know what is new in his world. The only question I really have to kick things off with is what's new with you since last time we spoke? So I think it's been at least a couple of years. I know you've been a busy man since then. So what's new?
Well, I've changed the name I perform under. Originally, I performed under the moniker of Hoger's Wolf, which was really supposed to be a band. And I sort of had if you like, folk prog rock kind of aspirations with that. And I could never really convince people to get involved in it. So I've stopped doing that, and I've tried to go for a more singer-songwriter kind of format, and I just operate under my own name, Andy Hoger. So that's the major change. The slight change in the style of writing songs. They're a bit simpler now.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose that's a lot easier for you to go out and play, right? So, I mean, what kind of gigs are you doing? Are you looking for, for booked gigs? Are you turning up to open mics, doing a bit of both? What's the plan there?
Yeah, definitely. Still do open mics. A lot more in the centre of Oxford, which tends to be open mics with a lot of other very good artists. So it's in terms of the quality, it's higher. It's not to say it's any better. It's just that there tends to be in Oxford City a lot more semi-professional musicians, for want of a better description for them. So I do that a bit more because it pushes me to be better.
Yeah.
I'm still gigging, very few paid gigs in terms of doing your original stuff, but I do a few pubs, and I do a lot more covers when I do those. To try and please the semi-cut crowd. As you probably remember, when you're on the circuit, most of the gigs are through the spring, summer, and late summer, and then it goes a bit quiet in the winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Covers that I'm doing mainly. It's a lot of 70s kind of stuff, really. I guess my favourites are Neil Young ones. Ooh La La, Ronnie Lane, that always goes down well. But I do Maggie May, Rod Stewart as well.
Tune.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Bit of Steeler's Wheel.
Yeah.
Amongst many, not much in the way of modern stuff. I think that the most modern cover I do is Laid by James.
Yeah.
And that's kind of got a comic value because of the high vibrato.
Yeah. And in terms of your songwriting, so you mentioned that's changed, or your style's changed slightly. What have you been working on songs recently, and have you got any plans to release a new EP or anything like that?
Yeah, I am about to release an EP this year, and it'll be songs that I've released already, because it's just much easier to record one at a time and release it, because it takes a lot of time to do. And I self-record, so I'm doing, if you like, all the digital engineering with it, and it's not really something I'm great at, so I have to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So in terms of my songwriting, I've kind of taken a leaf out of the book of country music, and that is simple is better.
Yeah.
So my songs are simpler, more sort of formalized along the lines of verse, chorus kind of thing.
Yeah. Well,
Whereas
and
before I kind of would write songs in movements.
yeah. Well, and I suppose again when you're playing by yourself and you don't have anyone backing you, it's probably easier to remember as well, and maybe easier to to get people who've maybe not listened to you before to if you want them to tap their feet along with something, it helps if it's a little bit more not necessarily formulaic, but a little more predictable. So they know verse, chorus, and they're like, okay, here comes another verse, here comes another chorus, and hopefully
Yeah.
by the end they're singing along with it,
Oh, without doubt, without doubt. It's far more accessible.
Yeah.
Um,
Cool. And
yeah.
how have you been sort of getting the word out lately? Because I think last time we spoke, it was probably sort of at the tail end of when the open mic Slate group was still quite a big thing. Um, I know some people are still quite active in that, but it's certainly less active than it has been. So how are you getting the word out? Is it just a case of playing as much as you can in that Oxford circuit and trying to get known within that circuit, or
Yeah,
what's the plan?
it's definitely that. Uh, Certainly on the social medias, you will see people asking for acts from time to time, and you throw your hat in the ring and try your luck. And sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you're not what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I I think since we last spoke, certainly the circle within which I get gigs has broadened.
Mhm.
Not massively. It's still Bucks, Berks, Oxen borders that I'm operating on. Um, but for the moment, I haven't really got any aspirations to do any more than that because life is busy. I have to work, and I can't be doing too many gigs.
Yeah.
If they were available, which they're not.
Well, and
So.
you talked about the Oxford circuit in particular. What are some of the venues in Oxford and maybe like some of the nights that you play at that you would recommend to people to check out?
In terms of open mics, there's two guys that are very good. The James Morgan, who operates under the tag Jamo. I can't remember whether it's Jamo Music or what have you. And then there's Lee Bow, and their open mics are superb. Um, there's Amanda's Music, which is a little bit more into Berkshire. She runs some very good nights. Jackie Clark, um, which is sort of more the sort of Abingdon area.
Yeah.
Um, she has some good open mic nights. God, I can't think now. But yeah, those four are probably the ones that I've been to the most.
Yeah.
Um,
And whereabouts are those? Are they based or do the venues change up?
uh, Lebo is St James Tavern, the old bookbinders, and there's another one I can't remember the name of it. Gemmo, Red Lion on a Thursday night, and I think it's called the Casbah, which is on the Cowley Road, which is a Monday night, which I've yet to go to, but
Yeah.
it does look pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, and I guess as well, like you said, it's tough to find the time when you're working a regular job as well. I mean, do you ever have
Yeah.
plans to what does success look like for you? Like, do you hope to go on to, to become as you say, like a semi-professional or professional musician? Are you happy just getting the little gigs here and there as you can? Or, what does success mean in terms of your music for you?
For me, it's probably more about uh, the recorded stuff
Mhm.
being listened to in a broader audience for that. In terms of the gigging, for the moment, I'm kind of happy with what I've got.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of the pub circuit, which is really what I'm looking at, it's certainly for the moment cover acts that are in demand.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get a few original music nights, but they tend to be unpaid.
Yeah.
which is not a problem. It's always nice to be paid.
Yeah. I think that's the nature of the beast as well. Again, it's that kind of capitalism at its finest, really. Like people go out of their way to see the cover bands because they'll play songs that they know and they can dance to, and it kind of takes
Yeah.
a different. I guess it's a different kind of night out to do that versus to go out and actually listen and sort of pay attention and digest some new tunes.
Well, absolutely. But I mean, I don't think it's any different. I mean, if you look at the 50s, it was very much cabaret acts, sort
Hmm.
of 40s into the 50s. That was the fashion, the Sinatras and Dean Martins and that. They weren't bands. They didn't write their own music. They wrote, they played and sang songs that were written by other people from across the years. Then you got the sort of into the 50s, into the 60s. It was all about bands and original music through into the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think when we got into the noughties, cabaret came back into vogue, and you can blame things like Britain's Got Talent and the individuals involved in that
Yeah.
uh, for that happening, I suppose. But it's just it's a fashion thing, isn't it? If you like, things
Yeah.
go in cycles, and
That's it.
unfortunately for me, the cycle at the moment doesn't favour what I do.
Yeah. Well, and just to end on really, so what have you got planned next? What have you got coming up for the rest of this year, and where can people follow you to stay up to date?
Okay, well, you can get me on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Threads, I think is a new one, and it's at Andy underscore Hogger or hyphen. What's next? 23rd of May, got a song coming out which is called Josephine, which will be part of the EP, which will be called something along the lines of The Book of Josephine.
Yeah.
Um, and that will be out probably around about October by the time
Awesome.
I get to doing that. I've got gigs through the summer. There's a lot of, if you like, village fatey things coming up.
Hmm.
Um,
I
I
guess
can't
you'll be
think of
posting about those on your social media.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Big thanks to Andy Hoger for joining me. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is Andy Hoger with Ms. Monagle and I.
Become one, become one, become one, become one. To become one, and that's me, and that's you. Become one. Through all the changes, we grew as one. Become one, become one, become one. To become one. Well, it's me, and it's you. Become one. as one. Me and you.
That was Ms. Monocle and I by Andy Hoger. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to be joined by our second guest of the day now. This is the Sepia Tone Folk Collective. And they're going to let us know what's new since last time we chatted to them. The only question that I prepare for these is, what have you guys been up to since last time we spoke, which was a fair old while ago. I think it was at least 2 or 3 years ago. So you've done a lot of stuff since then.
Yeah, I think we spoke the last time we'd just done the No Change in Me double album. I think discs 1 and 2, of which was there 17 or 18 songs on each side. So we just had this kind of splurge of all these songs that we'd written and then recorded down in Southampton. So
I think it might have even been the album before, because we sent you Circles and the Artist to play on your show, and that's the album before.
Yeah, that's the first album we did. So, I mean, since then we've been doing quite a lot insofar as we did this, as I said, this huge splurge of creativity on this double album we did. We just got all the songs out of our system and then kind of, I guess, changed tack in a way. And because I think No Change in Me 1 and 2, although I love it and they're really great songs in my opinion, I got a lot of love for those songs. There's no format to the album. There's no story to it. It's just kind of a splat on a canvas. So since then we started doing more structured stuff. So we released an EP last year called Way Back When, which it kind of forays a tiny little bit into deeper folk and country instead of just whatever we feel like doing at the time. This sounds good. These are good chords. Let's write a cool song. And since then, it's an interesting journey insofar as I guess we've narrowed the path a little bit into proper country Americana.
You've forgotten 13 Thoughts on Solace as well.
That
was another one.
But yeah, it's since Way Back When we've done a 9-track album called From Somewhere Out West, entitled as such, just because it does seem as though it's from the Midwest. It's got a lot of banjos and mandolins and folk guitars and harmonicas and country style.
And a little link to me being from Bristol area and somewhere out west. So yeah, a little personal link in the title too.
Yeah, it goes a bit further west than Bristol there.
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Yeah. But, make it relevant to us in England, even though we're doing country music. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we've just done, was it literally last week? The 5 Ballads of Lorna Calhoun EP, 5-track EP came out, where I've for years and years and years I've been wanting to do in inverted commas a concept album where it just follows a complete narrative, almost in chronological order. It's 5 songs in chronological order, and it tells a story from track 1 to track 5. So I wrote that, and Lucy and I wrote it, and we recorded it a couple of weeks ago, and it's come out on Spotify.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
it's got some really interesting songs on there as well. Richie kind of came to me with a talking blues concept, and being completely honest, I'd heard a couple of Bob Dylan talking blues songs, but apart from that, I hadn't really explored that genre. So that gave me a little bit of a homework task to go and kind of research all the different talking blues out there. And I was desperately searching for kind of female voices, and I could only find one recorded female talking blues artist, and I was quite taken aback and thought, oh gosh, this is bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I just kind of had to try and do it my own way and put my own stamp on it. But that's the first track. That's Lorna's Lament, where we do that talking blues song.
And who was that other artist that you found?
Oh gosh, I can't remember the name. There was only one track, and it's an interesting song actually. It's called The Wheelchair Blues. And it was this woman's story about how she met a lady who was in a wheelchair, and went for dinner with her and saw all of the difficulties that she had
Hmm.
um, exploring, just being a disabled person in a restaurant with no lift, or,
Mm.
the way that people talk to her differently. And it's a really interesting song. I can't bring the artist to mind, I'm afraid.
No, awesome. Cool. And what about the instrumentation? So, Richie, you mentioned a little bit of, some of the different instruments you've been playing. Are there any particularly weird and wacky ones that you want to get your hands on for future recordings?
Well, it's a really good question. I think when we write the songs, the country songs, I'm really passionate about not making them contemporary.
Hmm.
So I'm quite passionate about using lyrics and vernacular which you would only have used in the 1890s or the early
Hmm.
1900s. So when you write a song, you have to stick to. So it sounds as though the listener could have just plucked it straight out of
Hmm.
a gramophone record that their great grandma would have had from decades ago. So that also therefore limits the number of instruments you can use. So
Mhm.
there's obviously the guitar you can use, but I've been really getting into sort of picking a banjo in bluegrass style and country
Hmm.
style. I've recently bought a mandolin, which is actually not on the EP, but we've been playing around with it. I've bought an auto harp recently, which is
Hmm.
another kind of funky instrument from that era. So you have to, I guess, work out, just make it an honest album instrumentally,
Yeah.
insofar as not putting down um, you know, I'm not going to put my any drum and bass on it or
Mm.
anything.
Like use a theremin or something. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah,
My whistle's pretty wacky.
yeah.
We did a songwriting competition for Watford Folk Club, about the three virtues, faith, hope, and charity. And our song is very tongue in cheek and silly, and I had one of those whistles in it, so you can hear that it's recorded
It's
on
a penny
from
whistle.
somewhere out west. That
You would have
yeah,
got a penny whistle in the
bit
1930s. How much
wacky.
yeah, percussion as well. But
That's about as wacky as we've got.
yeah, it's about as wacky as we've got. Obviously, I'm there. You can have a fiddle, but I'm not good enough at the fiddle to be able to lay anything fiddle-esque down
Yeah.
on any track. So there are strings, but it's all synthesized, unfortunately.
Yeah. Cool. And how important is like the storytelling to you? Because you mentioned obviously the album as a whole tells a story as well as the individual songs. Is that like, I guess you said you've got the kind of the focus, the narrowed focus on the music, and is part of that the storytelling as well as the genre.
Well, Lucy will be able to answer that question better than I can. For me, the storytelling is really important. So I just like writing great stories or
Hmm.
just telling stories. I've got a vivid imagination like a child, I guess. So I'm often out running out in the Chiltern Hills and a story will come to me and I say, well, why just write it, just tell it.
Hmm.
And just thinking of different format, different structures of songs. So you might, like Lucy said before, it might be in a talking blues format, it might be in a ballad format, it might be in a funny rhyming structure. Just play around with it to make stuff interesting. But I was worried that the album would be too dark because the first Talking Blues song talks of the main character's abusive relationship that she's just escaped from, and kind of um, the subsequent life she's living after having escaped from an abusive ex-husband. And then the third song on the of the five is a really dark ballad about a woman traveling across America by herself. So I tried to write a couple of upbeat songs on there as well, just to keep it a bit light.
Yeah.
But Lucy can talk about how she identifies with storytelling because she's the main singer.
Yeah, it's really important. The storytelling is so important. As a drama teacher and
Hmm.
an actress, I love how Richie writes the stories, and then I try and really kind of identify and find a voice of my own
Yeah.
for those characters.
Literally,
Yeah,
when we were recording, you sort of went into a dark space and came back with a specific voice for
yeah.
different songs.
So
Yeah.
the interestingly, even when we were recording the album, for the first song, for Lorna's Lament, I had my hair tied up.
Mm.
And then on the third song, so it's essentially Lorna's sister, I deliberately took my hair down and kind of ruffled it up and just kind of put my head down and got, yeah, like in a really dark place. And so that and when you listen to it, I think you can hear a more kind of dark, gravelly kind of voice on the third one. And it took me a long time to really get those characters right. And but I was so passionate about making sure that each character had a voice and for that voice to be different to each other.
Yeah. And how does that like filter into playing live? Have you played any of these songs yet? And like, how do you kind of get back in that headspace? And also, how do you approach, this is two questions in one, but how do you also approach the fact that obviously you're when you're performing live, you're not necessarily playing all 5 of them back to back in the order that they were written. So how do you approach that?
Yeah.
Just trying to gauge what songs would work in a specific gig. Obviously, different gigs you get. I mentioned that I was worried that the first couple of songs I wrote for this EP were quite dark. They were talking about abuse on a number of levels and different types of abuse. And I tried to finish off the album about kind of it's really hard for a guy to say this, or it sounds really pretentious, but empowering women, write a couple of songs about women being empowered and stuff. And I know that's not my voice, but you know, do what I can. But when you're choosing songs to play in a gig, obviously you're not playing it chronologically. So I think it just boils down to being savvy about the gig you're playing. So we're not going to go to get scheduled to play at a summer festival at 2 p.m. in a pub and play a song about abuse. You know, it's knowing what to play and when. But then when we go to more sort of deep thinking, profound folk clubs, which there are out there, just choose like these. This is the audience that these guys they're gonna identify with it more. They're gonna appreciate it more.
Yeah, we do a really amazing open mic at Brill, and we played Cascade Creek, which is the very dark story about Lorna's sister, and we could audibly hear them going.
Yeah, that's really
like
nice.
As the story went along, and that is so magical for us, isn't it? For people to react like that.
We played there a couple of times recently, and we played Lorna's Lament, which is the Talking Blues, and then we played a song called By Cascade Creek, which is the one about the woman journeying across America by herself. And the reaction's been really good. Yeah. It's really nice. It's really refreshing to hear people listening and engaging with it.
I think it's really important also to say that I believe that these songs stand alone as well. No, even though they're 5 songs that are very much on a concept album that do belong chronologically in that order, they stand alone for themselves. And I think that's important. Richie's songwriting is so profound that they stand alone for themselves.
I didn't ask her to say that.
Awesome. No, cool. And just to sort of wrap things up, so what have you got? It's my usual ending. What have you guys got planned next, and where can people follow you and listen to music and stuff?
This is definitely a question.
I have no idea. I'm in charge of all the extra. So basically the plan where we're going to next is just, I think we're quite happy that side of the Atlantic writing wise at the moment, but I feel really passionate about having a really folky voice as well. So we are playing at quite a few folk clubs, and we've got quite a few folk clubs booked in for next year already. So I don't want us to lose that folk voice, but we definitely want to explore this country voice as well a little bit more. We are playing at loads of different venues, so for summer festivals as well. So we've got our more upbeat folk pop, folk rock stuff that we'll be playing at those. So we've got Tame Music in the Park on Sunday. We're actually playing Pub in the Park as well. We're in the bandstand on the Sunday, and we're doing a couple of busking gigs for them as well. We are doing some. We've got this really wonderful working relationship with the New Theatre in Oxford. So we play in the Piano Bar before their big performances. So we're playing before the Simon and Garfunkel night, and also the Dubliners.
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
the Dubliners. That's just May. So as you can tell, we've got absolutely loads and loads of things coming up. And we announce month by month what we're playing, where we're playing. And basically, if you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we've got a YouTube as well. So yeah, that's where you can find us. We know the name is a little bit more complicated than some, but the Sepia Tone Folk Collective, if you just search for that, then we come up.
Yeah, awesome. And somehow, with all of that stuff going on, Richie's also got to find the time to learn to play the fiddle as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I never stop. I mean, I'm really ashamed that my fiddle playing isn't good enough to put down live yet, but one day, give me some time.
Yeah. He's trying to get me to try and learn some instruments too.
Yeah, it would be really nice because I've been really, like I said before, I've been playing the banjo and loads of other instruments, and so I've been trying to because obviously the banjo's in G, the mandolin is in G, so I've been writing a lot of songs in G. So learns the guitar, but
like basic chords.
write any songs in G, but not happened yet. But hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
I'll be fiddling all summer.
Big thank you to the Sepia Tone Folk Collective for joining me. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and this is the Sepia Tone Folk Collective with Help You Out.
Baby, let me help you out. Darling, if you need me, just sing and shout, and I'll be there, just pick up the phone. Don't wanna think that you're on your own, so if you think that you need some company, don't be scared to come reach out to me. Don't hide away if you're feeling lonely. It's okay, oh baby, let me help you out. Baby, let me take you out. Give me the benefit of the doubt, and I'll be there, we can hit the town. I'll make you laugh if you're feeling down. If you think that you need to give your mind a rest, have a chat and get things off your chest. Deep inside you know it's for the best, and it's okay, oh baby, let me take you out. Smile. I can see it's been quite a while since you were free, so put on your shoes. We'll take a walk and talk about your blues, and I know about the pain that you've been through, the rage and disdain, I see it too. But please let me explain something to you. You'll be okay, baby, let me make you smile. You need from me. Tell me the guy you want me to be, and I'll be there, just say the word. I want to help, but I haven't heard. So if you think that you maybe want some space, or perhaps you need a friendly face to get your head back to your happy place, that's okay. Tell me what you need from me. I cross the line. When we're together I forget the time. We're just the same like 2 in 1. They say time flies when you're having fun. Babe, you were lost and it was me who found you. And although this advice may astound you, just think about the people that you keep around you, and you'll be okay. Tell me if I cross the line.
Got a stute intuition guiding her life. Been developing it since the age of 5. She's low on the radar and high in the sky. Won't allow life to pass her by. Her mother looks back at her boring past, staring through the bottom of an empty glass. There's not many people who know she bared her charms for a penny a time at the back of the class. Oh, what can it mean? It's in every little thing that you see. Turn around, touch the ground, 99, 100. Flip a coin, watch it fall, 99, 100. Make a move, stop tinkering. Yes, you may lose everything, 'cause I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. Now the way those girls play is a beautiful thing. Mother on guitar and her kid can sing. They packed up their jobs to pursue a dream, performing the songs of Led Zeppelin. Oh, what can it mean? It's in every little thing that you see. Turn around, touch the ground, 99, 100. Flip a coin, watch it fall, 99, 100. Make a move, stop tinkering. Yes, you may lose everything, 'cause I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. Oh, what can it mean? It's in every little thing that you see. Turn around, touch the ground, 99, 100. Flip a coin, watch it fall, 99, 100. Make a move, stop lingering. Yes, you may lose everything, 'cause I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. Oh, what can it mean? It's in every little thing that you see. Turn around, touch the ground, 99, 100. Flip a coin, watch it fall, 99, 100. Make a move, stop lingering. Yes, you may lose everything, 'cause I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right. I get the impression when I look at you, you're going right.
That was Astute Intuition by Hounds of Magic, and before that we had the Sepia Tone Folk Collective with Help You Out. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
John Lennon, Imagine. I bought this LP at the Vintage Vinyl and Pre-Loved Clothing pop-up boutique in the Front Room Cafe in High Wycombe Castle Street. My interest in this album was revived by watching the Making of documentary on the TV. I borrowed the Imagine album off a friend soon after it was released. I found the title track a bit dull. I understood the sentiment, but I thought it was not a great way to open a highly anticipated album. It was later released as a single and must be one of the most overplayed songs ever. I have never loved it, though I do admire the elegant simplicity of the piano part, which does something with those two familiar two chords, that no one else has ever managed. When they released Imagine as a single, they put the very sweary Working Class Hero on the B-side, a track from the previous album that lit up many a jukebox with its cluster of F-bombs. The song How Do You Sleep, which was about Paul McCartney, was another highly anticipated damp squib, but there is definitely some greatness on this album. I'm sure my teenage self probably rated It So Hard as a favourite, with its status quo type distorted guitars and boogie beat, but I'm now not so impressed by such things. I really like Give Me Some Truth, possibly more so now having seen the Beatles attempt it in the Get Back documentary, and George Harrison gives it some nasty lead guitar. Jealous Guy is a great song, but it has been overplayed, so I now prefer Oh My Love, which is the Imagine album's understated forgotten work of genius. Like the song Love is the understated work of genius on the Plastic Ono Band album. And listening to this album now I am much older, I really appreciate the jug band like Crippled Inside. A lot of John Lennon's early solo songs were basically slogans with tunes, and sometimes they had memorable hummable tunes and became anthems like Give Peace a Chance and Power to the People. But the song I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, Mama, I Don't Want to Die, though it is a series of well-observed aphorisms, it's actually a poor and monotonous tune, and the excess of reverb is one of the few suggestions that Phil Spector might have been involved. Also, the long and winding road style orchestration on the song How, which is possibly a bit out of place on what would otherwise have been a nice, quiet, introspective number. And then there is the song Oh Yoko. It is hard to dislike Oh Yoko, but somehow still I do. Imagine John Lennon.
Big thank you to Twang and Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to Andy Hoger and the Sepia Tone Folk Collective for being this week's guests. Thank you to everyone whose music I've shared, announcements I've shared, etc, etc. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also reach out to me here at the studio on dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain at wickhamsound.org.uk. And I'm particularly keen to hear from performers, poets, musicians, people with MP3s that'd like to share, local arts news, etc. Don't hesitate to get in touch. So I'm going to leave you with one last tune, and this is the incredible Jazz Dylan with Get On Your Boots featuring Henny Envy. I'll catch you next week.
beautiful when the sun shines in the